You're sitting in a meeting. Someone across the table yawns. You don't even decide to do it. Your jaw stretches open and your eyes water before you can stop it. It feels automatic, harmless, just tiredness, right? But the real answer is far stranger. That yawn didn't start with you. It didn't start with your mother or her mother or anyone with a name. It started somewhere on the plains of Africa, in a brain barely recognizable as human, 300,000 years before you were born, and it's still running in you today, unedited, unchanged, like a piece of software nobody ever bothered to update. Here's the strange part. You don't yawn because you're tired. Tiredness is just the trigger most people notice. The real reason is older and weirder than sleep itself. Your brain has a temperature problem. Like a computer, it runs hot. Hotter brains process information more slowly. And your skull is a closed box, which means heat has nowhere good to go. So your body found a workaround. A yawn pulls in a rush of cool air. It stretches the muscles around your jaw, which increases blood flow. That blood acts like a radiator, carrying heat away from your brain. You're not yawning because you're sleepy. You're yawning because your brain is quietly cooling itself down. This isn't a guess. In 2007, psychologist Andrew Gallup ran an experiment that still shapes how scientists think about yawning. He had people hold either a warm pack or a cold pack against their forehead, then watched how often they yawned while looking at videos of other people yawning. The people holding the cold pack yawned far less. Their brains didn't need the cooling. The urge simply wasn't there. Gallup's data lined up with something else researchers had already noticed. Yawning spikes when room temperature is moderate and drops off sharply when it's too hot or too cold outside. Why would that be? Because a yawn only works as a cooling system within a certain range. Too hot outside and pulling in warm air does nothing. Too cold, and your body has bigger problems than brain temperature. The thermal window where yawning helps is narrow, and your body still checks for it, automatically, hundreds of times a day, without asking your permission. Now here's where it gets stranger. Why does watching someone else yawn make you yawn? This is called contagious yawning, and for decades nobody could fully explain it. Babies don't do it. Most children under 4 don't either. It usually appears somewhere around age 4 or 5, right when a child starts to understand that other people have minds of their own, separate from their own thoughts and feelings. That timing is not a coincidence. In 2009, researcher Atsushi Senju studied children with autism and found something remarkable. Children who had more difficulty reading other people's mental states were significantly less likely to catch a yawn from someone else. The contagious yawn, it turns out, isn't really about tiredness at all. It's a tiny, involuntary act of empathy. Your brain is mirroring another brain. It's a primitive signal that says, I notice you. I am tuned to you. I am part of your group. Think about who you yawn around the most. Strangers on a train rarely set you off. But a close friend yawning across the table, you're almost guaranteed to follow. Researcher Robert Provine, one of the first scientists to take yawning seriously as a subject worth studying, found exactly this pattern. The closer your emotional bond to someone, the more likely their yawn becomes your yawn. Family members trigger it more than friends. Friends trigger it more than acquaintances. Acquaintances trigger it more than strangers. This wasn't built for a meeting room or a smartphone screen. It was built for something much older. Picture an early human group, exposed and vulnerable, sleeping in the open or in the mouth of a cave. There's no fence, no door, no alarm system. Survival depends entirely on shared alertness. If one member's brain temperature climbed and their focus started to slip, a yawn would cool them and snap their attention back. But if the whole group could catch that yawn at the same moment, something more powerful happened. Everyone's alertness reset together. Everyone's attention sharpened at once. A yawn passing silently through a sleeping group wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a synchronization signal, a wordless way of keeping every set of eyes ready for the same threat at the same time. You can still see traces of this in animals that live and hunt in groups. Wolves yawn contagiously around their pack. Chimpanzees catch yawns from other chimpanzees, but more strongly from the ones they're closer to socially. Even dogs, after thousands of years living beside humans, have started to catch yawns from us. Across all of these species, the pattern repeats. Yawning spreads fastest through the bonds that matter most. So what does this mean for the version of you sitting in a meeting today? It means that ancient survival circuit never got the memo that the danger disappeared. There is no predator stalking the hallway outside your office. Nobody is relying on your shared alertness to survive the night, but your brain doesn't know that. It is still running the same program it ran 300,000 years ago, watching for cues, synchronizing with the people around you, treating every yawn like a small piece of social information worth absorbing. This is why a yawn can feel almost impossible to stop once it starts spreading through a room. It's not a flaw in your willpower. It's a signal moving through a circuit that predates language, predates agriculture, predates almost everything you'd call civilization. The same wiring that once helped a small band of humans survive a vulnerable night in the open is the exact wiring firing inside you right now in a heated room, under fluorescent lights, 300,000 years and 0 updates later. There's something almost touching about that, once you really sit with it. A yawn looks like boredom. It looks like fatigue, maybe even rudeness if it happens at the wrong moment. But underneath all of that, it's one of the oldest forms of connection your body still knows how to perform. It's your brain quietly asking, "Are you with me?" And another brain, without a single word exchanged, answering yes. Most of what makes you human gets explained through big, dramatic milestones: fire, tools, language, agriculture. But some of the oldest, most stubborn pieces of being human are this small, this easy to miss. A reflex riding quietly under the surface of an ordinary afternoon, connecting you to people you've never met, who lived lives you can't imagine in a world that no longer exists. So tonight, when you're scrolling through your phone and you feel that pull behind your jaw, pause for a second before you reach for your water or blame the late hour. That isn't just tiredness. That's a 300,000-year-old signal fired by a brain trying to cool itself, completed by a circuit built for survival, and triggered, more often than you'd think, by nothing more than being close to someone else. You don't even decide to do it. And maybe that's exactly the point.